Hi, this is Jeff Blauette, technical agronomist with Cooperative Farmers Elevator, and we're back for another season of Field Friday in the field agronomy segments, talking about what we're seeing on a week-to-week basis as the season progresses. As you all know, the planting season, we had a lot of cool soils to start, lack of moisture in a lot of areas, and now is the time when in cornfields that starts to manifest itself and show us what kind of problems we really are battling. I'm out in a field here. This exhibits one of the problems that we're seeing just starting to show up now. If you can look around, we've got some of this corn here, seems kind of floppy. It's not anchored very well in the soil. It's leaning over. You shouldn't be doing that this time of year, but we've got the nodal root systems on these plants we're struggling to develop. And as that corn plant gets to this, we're looking at just a small V4 corn plant. That's when that nodal root system, that first real root system of that plant, starts to develop and take off. And if it's struggling for some reason, we start to see the corn exhibit some problems. In this case, you can just see how loose and easy this flops around. We can pull this up, and there's very, very minimal root system on this. I've got another close-up picture. Those roots are trying to develop maybe an inch above the seed or so. If that ground is very dry or has some other issues, we start to see that corn struggle. In this case, we had the corn planted actually at least a decent depth, a good 2 inches here, but that topsoil is being dry enough where it's not able to develop those nodal root systems into a moist environment, and those roots kind of don't like to develop and really don't. They start to nub off, and we need some moisture to actually help with that. A couple of things that can cause that, and not necessarily in this case, in this field. I don't know what else you could have done in this field. This was no-tilled. It's just been so dry. But planting a little shallow. The shallower you plant, the higher that nodal root system wants to develop. And if that nodal root system wants to develop and start coming out just below the surface of the ground, we've had an awful lot of these warm, windy days with low dew points. That top inch of the topsoil right now is very dry. So that's not helping us. If we worked the ground and got it kind of fluffy and dried it out during our tillage passes, or it's just stayed fluffy, it doesn't hold a lot of moisture and dries out, that's causing some problems with this nodal root system lack of development. So that we're starting to see. I haven't seen that for a few years, but that's the symptom of our season. Moisture at any time would help us. We have had some little showers go through here in some of the area lately, real localized areas, but that'll definitely help. But if you start to see some of this corn laying down and flopping around in the wind, that's what's going on. You can dig it up and see it. We've had some other issues I haven't seen for, some of them I've never seen before, but we've got herbicide carryovers from last year. We've got sulfentrazone, the basic ingredient, one of them in the authority mixes, Sonic and those types of things. We see some of that dinging on some corn. I've never seen that before, especially in a carryover aspect. So that we've got some pictures here that kind of show what some of that damage maybe looks like. It's kind of a pinching at development. If it happened to be merged at the surface and we had a little shot of rain, it's a little band of overdose that probably caused that tissue to have some problems. It's just a class of chemistry that we had too little water to dilute it out last summer, and we're still seeing it hanging around in these drier areas, especially Sioux County, where we had some of the, as you go south, some of the really dry all last fall, last summer, and continued on this spring. Less snow melt and everything. We got another problem that we've seen occasionally in really dry falls and dry summers. See a little bit of that this year. Fall applied hog manure. If it wasn't knifed in very deep, some of them don't even get knifed in. They just have the disc covers that throw some soil over the manure. But that knifed in band being shallow, I've got some pictures here of some corn that was planted and those nodal roots are trying to develop, and they're right in the hot zone of manure. This happened to be no-till, so that band never got dispersed by any tillage, but that's really causing a problem. That corn looks terrible where it's right over the top of that manure trail. The roots are getting burnt and it's just too hot. It's a salty area. That's not good. Could be anhydrous if you didn't have anhydrous knifed in deep enough. That can be real damaging to those first roots when they start to develop and get down into that. That's one of the reasons why we typically knife anhydrous in at an angle to the rows, so we minimize the effect if that does happen. But those things all can cause problems with this nodal root development. Another thing you start to see right now, there's a whole host of things, but we've also got a little bit of yellow areas showing up in some of these cornfields. That corn is striped. When it's really dry, that corn can't take up enough nitrogen, but if it's striped, it's probably more likely sulfur. We need some of that sulfur to become available to that plant, and it's going to take some moisture for that to happen. So again, there's all kinds of things showing up in these fields, and they're all moisture related or lack thereof. So the other thing that we've seen, some people have had some issues with some crusting in soybeans. Be aware of that. We've had some of these little areas that have had some pounding rains go through right after planting, and we've got some crusted issues that are causing problems, and that's from too much moisture too fast, obviously. So we've got a lot of things going on, and it might be a mile away, it might be a different problem. So I would just express my thoughts that you should probably go make sure you do at least a drive-by on your fields, make sure things are looking okay, and see if there's any issues we can do something about. Some of them we can, some of them we can't, other than hope for rain. But just thought I'd let you know what we're starting to see out in the fields, and we'll continue the process through the summer like we always do. So with that, that's this week's Field Friday segment, and we'll see you next week.